action, we can keep alternating. So live action series, not like live action movie, but a Disney Plus series. What was your favorite?
I mean, I was surprised. There's a lot of good stuff in the live action. Honestly, as much as well, no. So if you go to Ahsoka, right, the World Between Worlds again,
It's so
with
awesome.
Anakin and Ahsoka, that's outstanding. Um, Probably one I won't mention because I think you're going to talk about it.
Okay.
And then I actually had two from Andor, right, like the
One Way
Aldani
Out or whatever.
heist. Like that one's great with the eye
Oh,
on the
with
planet.
is
That's
that the
such a
one with the where they're like that event is happening? Is it that one?
yeah, and they're trying to rob that armory or the
That is a good
vault.
episode.
The level of tension in those in that episode is
Mm-hmm.
just ridiculous,
Well, it
right?
had
Like you're
3 hours
on the
of
edge of
build
your
up
seat.
to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Like
And
three
I know that's
episodes
why
leading up
some
to it.
people listen. Some people
Yeah.
are going to be like, "You're picking Andor," but no, actually, but it's the prison break scene, right? Like
Yeah.
and
That's
part of
good.
me, I love Andy Serkis, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think he is phenomenal. I think he
Yeah.
elevates every role he's in. Um, Whether he's doing motion capture as Gollum or in Star Wars, right? I think he
Mm-hmm.
is incredible. So
You
I was
can
already
feel
excited
him
to
like
have
through
him.
his voice acting.
Yes, yeah, no,
He's good.
he's incredible. So already excited to have him in there. But like his character that he plays is great in that
Mm-hmm.
sequence, right? Like I feel like they did a really good job of building up to that. And so you obviously have the culminating moment where you realize he's not getting out, right?
Can't swim.
And I love that there's just such an insignificant detail, right? Like you read a biography about Keno Loy and it's like he can't swim. You're like, who cares? Right? But it's a little tidbit that matters at this moment
A
at
lot.
this time.
Yeah.
And I think about one of the reasons I love this part, not only because it's tense and it's exciting and you're rooting for these people the whole time, but I love the impact that I feel like this has on Cassian, right? Like he goes into this place very much lone wolf, like I'm all about myself. I'm just trying to get by. And he probably keeps that perception throughout his interaction with Keno Loy, right? Like this guy doesn't want to escape. He only cares about himself. He's just trying to get out. And so for Cassian to learn right at the end there, like I feel like he has to go back through his head and think about everything Keno did and said throughout this, breakout and this thing that they're doing, thinking he knew he was never going to get out. And I feel like that has to impact what we see Cassian do next, right? Like as he leaves
Yeah.
this place, he's different. And it's such a Star Wars thing, right? That like someone's
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice
He
has
doesn't
this
make it.
impact that changes something, right? That
Mm-hmm.
makes a difference in some way. And so and it does, like the same way you look at Cassian, the same way that Cassian probably looks at this. I feel like it forces the viewer to kind of look back at Keno Loy throughout all the episodes prior as like, huh, maybe he wasn't this jerk. Maybe he didn't care about himself, right? Like he really created a structure to this workroom that would have helped people get out better, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people thought he was a jerk, but he thought he was doing something helpful. And then with the whole, when he decides that he's going to break out, right? He's literally doing that for everyone but himself. And so that culmination of all of that and the way it's written and the way it builds up and the way it finishes, I could watch that episode over and over, just because it's so good. Again, just between the tension, the writing, the characters, the acting, that sequence throughout that prison break is just it's so good.
Yeah. Well, he had again, the Andor had the liberty of just these. Was it 4 episode arcs? They did three
Yeah.
4 episode
Yeah,
arcs, and so
yeah.
you get like 3 episodes to pay off essentially this finale of an arc.
Yeah.
And his is all of the payoffs are good in Andor, in my opinion, but his is so personal. Like it is just
It is.
they make you fall in love with him over time, and then it's like, and he's a goner. Well, we assume he's a goner. What if we, right? Like,
I mean, we don't really know, I guess, right? Like
they took him back in, obviously, but I assume they,
My guess was they were all executed, but I mean,
yeah.
we don't know. So,
what if they made him go ahead and jump?
So, bring back Andy Serkis, not Smoke. I would love that. Just as long as it's
Yeah.
not Snoke.
I actually like
Although that
Snoke. I
could have
wish
been
he would have
great.
hung
No, I mean
around
that.
longer.
Yeah, Snoke was a missed opportunity. But no, to your point, Andor as a whole, right? Like it really is just these like short segments of Cassian's life, but the people around him in those
Yeah.
segments, and kind of
It,
how those things are changing him into something. It's so good. I know some people absolutely hate Andor, but man, I love it.
it's good. It is good
Oh
storytelling.
man, yeah,
It's good drama. Lots of payoffs. I understand because it's like, oh my
I do
gosh,
too.
when are we
I
gonna
get
get
it.
to the payoff? But
Everybody likes different things.
yeah,
It's fine,
yeah,
but man,
for sure. So for mine, again, the theme continues. It's gonna be, and this is not my favorite Disney Plus live action series. It's probably, I like all of them, but it's probably
yeah,
towards the bottom just because as a whole, I don't think it's very strong.
right,
But Kenobi versus Vader, on that, is it a moon? I guess they fight
yeah.
on. Not the first time where Vader whips him, but the second time where Obi-Wan means business.
Hmm.
It is so good, especially if you watch Revenge of the Sith, the very end of it, and then you watch the Kenobi intro where it gives you the little prequel background,
Hmm.
and it ends with Obi-Wan, with his "You Are the Chosen One" spiel. And then you go watch that episode, and don't even watch the whole episode, because honestly, the whole episode kind of stinks. As like, if you look at it from the she knows about Luke, I mean, that drives me nuts. But a lot that doesn't make sense. But that one scene where
Yep.
they are fighting, the score is perfect, the emotion is high. I mean, it's Hayden is in the suit at portions of it.
Yeah.
Vader seems like he's finally got Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan just goes full master on him again. It makes A New Hope even better with that scene, because I mean the Vader and Obi-Wan scene in A New Hope,
Yeah.
action wise, underwhelming. You've got a senior citizen fighting Darth Vader, and it's just not exciting. But when you
Accurate.
throw in the fact that Obi-Wan has beat Anakin at his strength, his highest point as far as power and everything goes, is Anakin Vader. He does it again when Anakin's in the suit. How
Mhm.
cool is that? And then he, again, takes the mask halfway off. Anakin gives that spiel, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a better line in Star Wars than that. I mean,
It
that's
is a good
like,
one.
because
Yeah.
Star Wars is about Anakin, and so he's sitting there saying, "Hey, you didn't kill Anakin, I killed Anakin. This is my movie, not yours." Like, how cool is that for him to
Yeah.
say that? And you got, the blue on his face and the red, just a lot of
Mhm.
storytelling there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Kenobi isn't my favorite live action show, but that moment is still probably at the top of my list as well. I mean,
Yeah,
to see, because one of the reasons is we've talked about this before. Like Obi-Wan doesn't really get to shine a lot in the prequel movies, right? Has that great fight with Anakin. But other than that, he doesn't have like any. I mean, they have the arena, the Colosseum battle, which is
yeah,
against the big monster aliens.
yeah,
Um, but so to see him, like, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Jedi Master, right? Like, that is a really cool moment. And it bridges that, it tells us how he gets to where he is, right? Like, how does he regain resolve in the midst of, gosh, all the stuff he's been through, right? And in that moment, we kind of see where he's able to move, maybe not move past this thing, but at least start putting it behind him.
yeah.
Um, so it is such a good scene that sets up the end of the show really well, and sets him up in a really really compelling way for A New Hope. So
Yeah.
man, it's exciting to watch, but it's also got a lot of weight behind it,
It's so
which
heavy. Like,
really, yeah,
usually
because you kind of come
shows
back to
like,
that same sorrow, right, of watching Revenge of the
yeah,
Sith and just like, oh, this is terrible. Like it
yep.
really hits back on that heavy note of just, I mean, and we know it, right? We've seen the original trilogy.
Hmm.
We know Vader doesn't just change his mind, but to watch it still happen, you're just
Yeah,
like, man, this it's still sucks,
tough.
right? Like this is not
Yeah.
not fun.
Well, like, I don't get emotional about entertainment. Like, it's just, it's entertainment, right? Like, it's not real world. It's not important in the grand scheme of things. It is an escape, right?
Yeah.
And so in that one scene, it was just like I had a lump in my stomach just sitting there watching it. Cause like in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan is condemning Anakin, right?
Yeah.
Like he's on the bank and he's on fire. He don't have any legs. And
Yeah.
he's telling him, you are the chosen one. You did all this wrong. And it's like this real note of condemnation of Anakin. You really messed up.
Yeah.
And then in Kenobi, he has the exact same moment, but he says, I'm sorry, Anakin, for everything. And so it's everything. The Jedi, the leaving him there on Mustafar, not trusting him in episode 3, everything. And then you still get Vader saying, it was me, not you. And so it's just so cold. And it's like, this is heavy stuff. And so I just love that scene.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out, is how different he is in his tone with Anakin. Because if the Jedi had been that humble with him in the first place,
would never have happened.
Things would have been different, right? But
yeah. In this fictional series.
And I think you see that there with Obi-Wan, like the recognition that it took too long, right? That they should have been here sooner. So, man, yeah, that is heavy.
And then at the end of it,
I can imagine I think it's funny. You're sitting there like, what is this feeling? Am I sad?
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for emotional stories, so they get me every time.
Well, I will say too, like Obi-Wan almost changes on a dime too. Like he puts his heart out there and says, I'm sorry for all of it. But then when Anakin's like, I don't accept your apology, Obi-Wan says, so long, Darth. And he's ready for Luke at that point. So it sets him up just on his next meeting to Vader, essentially. So I just think there's a lot in that scene that bridges the prequels and the original trilogy that maybe gets overlooked.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense for why he's so dismissive of any part of Anakin Skywalker still existing, right? With Luke, that we see when he comes back as a Force ghost.
Yep.
That him and Yoda are both just like, nah, nothing there.
That guy's a goner. So as far as my runner-ups or honorable mentions, obviously when Luke comes back in The Mandalorian, that was so cool. I think
great scene.
Episode 3 of season 1 of The Mandalorian, where Mando turns Grogu in but then goes back and gets him, that is a great episode. So good. And then The World Between Worlds and Ahsoka, that one was up there too. But I thought this one probably carried the most weight thus far.
Yeah, that's fair.